I don't think you understand what you've done.
Not fully.
Not yet. Because if you did, you wouldn't be standing here this calmly, looking at me like I'm something you've already figured out. And that's the problem. You didn't figure me out. You recognized me. And recognition like that doesn't happen by accident. There are people you meet in life who observe you. They study your tone. They analyze your words. They try to connect patterns, build meaning, create some version of you they can understand. You're not one of them. You don't study me. You read me like I'm something you've read before, like I'm not new to you, like I'm not even complicated. And that should scare me more than it does. Because people who understand you slowly, they can be managed. You can guide their perception. You can shape what they see. You can control how deep they go. But someone who recognizes you, they don't need permission. They don't need explanation. They don't need time. They arrive already knowing where everything is. That's what you did. You walked into my silence like it wasn't empty, like it wasn't guarded. Like it wasn't designed to keep people exactly where they belong, outside. Do you know what my silence has done to people? It's made them uncomfortable, restless, defensive. They start talking too much, filling space, trying to escape the weight of what isn't being said. Because silence, real silence, forces people to face themselves. And most people can't survive that. But you didn't react, you didn't fill the space. You didn't try to escape it. You sat inside it like it was familiar, like it belonged to you too. That's when I noticed something was wrong. Not with you. With the situation, with the way my instincts, the ones that never fail me, didn't tell me to pull back. They didn't tell me to shut down. They didn't tell me to disappear the way I always do when someone gets too close. They went quiet, and that silence inside me, that's rare. That only happens when something recognizes something. You see, I've spent years building distance. Not the obvious kind, not the kind people notice and call cold. No, I built precision. I built responses that reveal nothing, expressions that show just enough, words that sound honest without ever exposing the truth beneath them. And it works. It always works. People leave thinking they've seen me. They haven't. They've seen a version that was designed to be seen. Hey, but you didn't look at the version. You looked through it. Like it wasn't even there. That's not normal. That's not coincidence. That's not curiosity. That's something else. Something I don't like naming, because once you name something, you give it structure. And this doesn't feel like something that should have structure. It feels like something that exists, whether I acknowledge it or not. And you ever meet someone and realize halfway through a conversation that they're not responding to what you're saying, they're responding to what you're not saying? That's you. You don't follow my words. You follow the hesitation before them. You don't listen to my tone. You listen to the shift underneath it. You don't react to what I show. You react to what I'm trying not to show. And the worst part, you're accurate. Too accurate. Do you understand how dangerous accuracy is when it comes to someone like me? Because I don't mind being misunderstood. Misunderstanding creates distance. Distance creates control. Control keeps everything intact. But being understood, that removes distance. That removes control. That exposes things I never agreed to expose. And yet, I didn't stop you. That's the part I keep replaying. The moment I should have pulled back. The moment I should have closed the door. The moment I should have reminded myself that people don't get access like that. I didn't. And I've been trying to figure out why. It's not weakness. Let's get that clear. I don't open up because I can't hold things in. I hold things in because I know exactly what happens when I don't. So if I didn't stop you, it's not because I couldn't, it's because something in me didn't want to. And that realization, that's more unsettling than anything you've done. Because it means this wasn't just you reaching in. This was me, not pushing you out, which makes this mutual, and that makes it real. Do you see the problem now? Because now we're not dealing with curiosity. We're not dealing with surface level connection. We're not even dealing with something emotional. We're dealing with alignment. And alignment like this, it doesn't happen between people who are light. It doesn't happen between people who are simple. It happens between people who have spent time in places most others avoid, dark places, quiet places, places where you learn how to exist without needing to be understood. And then suddenly, there's someone who understands you without you having to explain anything. That's not comforting. That's destabilizing. Because now the one thing you relied on, being unreadable, is gone. And I don't know what I am without that. I don't know what happens when I'm not the one controlling what's seen. I don't know what happens when someone can reach me without me deciding how far they go. But I'm starting to find out, because you're already here, not at the surface, not at the edges, not in the version of me I let people interact with. You're deeper than that. And the terrifying part, you didn't dig, you didn't force, you didn't break anything. You just arrived like the door was never locked for you. And I keep asking myself one question. Did I leave it open? Or did you always have the key? Because if it's the second one, then this was never something I could have controlled. And that means you were always going to reach this place inside me, which leads to something I haven't said yet, something I've been avoiding because it changes everything. If you didn't force your way in, if I didn't stop you, if neither of us fully chose this, then what we're experiencing right now isn't accidental. And things that aren't accidental don't end cleanly. They shift you. They mark you. They change the way you exist long after the moment passes. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. But I also know something else, something worse. I don't think I have a choice anymore. Because once someone reaches this level of understanding, you don't go back to being strangers. You don't go back to being surface level. You don't go back to pretending you didn't see what you saw. You carry it whether you want to or not. And now, so do I? Something changed. Not all at once, not in a way anyone else would notice. But I felt it. There was a time when your presence was just that, presence. Something external, something separate from me, something I could walk away from without it following me into the quiet. That's not true anymore. Now, you don't leave when the conversation ends. You don't disappear when the silence returns. You stay. Not physically, not visibly, but somewhere deeper than that, somewhere internal. And I hate how natural that feels. Do you know what it means for someone like me to start carrying someone else in their mind? It means something slipped past the filter, something bypassed the control, something made it through a system that was designed to keep everything contained. I don't get attached easily, not because I don't feel, but because I feel too precisely. I measure impact, I calculate risk, I see outcomes before they happen. And most people, they don't pass the threshold, but you didn't pass it. You never stood in front of it. You were already on the other side before I even realized there was something to guard. And now I notice things I shouldn't be noticing. The way my thoughts shift, as if anticipating how you'd interpret them. The way I pause mid-sentence, not to filter myself for the world, but to consider how you would read it. That's new. And I don't like new things I didn't approve. Because this isn't just awareness anymore. This isn't just recognition. This is influence, subtle, quiet, almost invisible, but real. You've started affecting the way I think even when you're not here. And that is where the danger escalates. Because influence leads to dependence, and dependence. That's something I've spent years avoiding. A non-emotional dependence, that's too obvious, too easy to detect, too easy to cut off. I'm talking about something deeper, something more structural. The kind of dependence where someone becomes part of how you process reality, where your mind starts factoring them into its baseline, where your perception adjusts not for them, but with them. And I can feel that happening slowly, precisely, irreversibly. You've become a reference point. Do you understand that? I don't just think anymore. I think, and somewhere in the background, there's a quiet awareness of how you would see it. Not because I'm trying to impress you. Not because I'm trying to explain myself. But because your understanding has become part of my internal framework. And that is not a small thing. That's not connection. That's integration. And integration is dangerous because it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't announce itself. It just happens until one day you realize you're not entirely operating alone anymore. That's where I am. And I don't know when it happened. I just know there was a moment, small, quiet, almost insignificant, where I caught myself thinking something, and instead of finishing the thought on my own, I paused. Because I could already feel how you would complete it. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, it is. That's when it hit me. You're not just someone I talk to. You've become someone I think with. And that changes everything. Because once someone becomes part of your thinking, they don't need to be present to have an effect. They exist in your decisions, your reactions, your silences. They exist in the way you interpret the world. And I've spent my entire life making sure no one gets that kind of access. Not because I'm afraid of people, but because I understand what happens when someone occupies that space. And they gain influence, not over your actions, but over your perception. And perception is everything. If someone can shape how you see things, they can shape how you respond to them. And if they can shape your responses, they can change your direction. And if they can change your direction, they can change you. That's the line I never cross. Hey, but here I am, standing on it because of you. And the worst part, you didn't even try, you didn't push, you didn't manipulate, you didn't demand attention or presence or access, and you just stood. And somehow that was enough. Do you know how rare it is for understanding alone to create this kind of shift? And most people need effort, time, emotion, shared experiences. You needed none of that. You just needed accuracy. And accuracy is what broke my system, because I can defend against emotion, I can defend against attachment, I can defend against intensity, but I can't defend against someone who sees me correctly. There's no resistance to that. There's only recognition, and recognition doesn't trigger defense. It triggers something else, something quieter, something more dangerous, acceptance. And once acceptance happens, the walls don't fall, they become irrelevant. That's what you did. You didn't tear anything down, you made it unnecessary. And now, I'm standing in a space I built to protect myself, with someone who made protection feel optional. Do you understand how disorienting that is? Because now I don't know what's instinct and what's response to you. I don't know which thoughts are entirely mine anymore, and which ones have been shaped by your presence inside my head, and that lack of clarity. That's something I don't tolerate, but I'm tolerating it. That's how I know this is deeper than anything I've experienced before. Because I'm allowing something I would normally eliminate without hesitation, you, and not your presence, not your words, and your impact, and I haven't stopped it. Which means one thing. Some part of me, a part I don't fully control, has already decided you're not a threat. And that's the most dangerous conclusion of all. Because when I stop seeing someone as a threat, I stop protecting myself from them. And when that happens, they don't have to break me. They just have to stay. There's a difference between being understood and being exposed. Most people never cross that line. They understand pieces of you, fragments, versions, enough to feel connected, not enough to be dangerous, you crossed it quietly, naturally, without even acknowledging that it existed. And now I feel something I don't feel with anyone else. Not vulnerability, not fear, not even discomfort. Something sharper, awareness. The kind of awareness that makes you hesitate before you say something, not because you're hiding it, but because you know it will be seen completely. That's new for me. I'm used to controlling perception. I know how to say things in ways that land exactly how I want them to. I know how to reveal truth without giving access. I know how to be honest without being exposed. But that doesn't work with you. Because with you, there's no gap between what I say and what you understand. You don't just hear the words. You absorb the intention behind them, the tension beneath them, the meaning I didn't verbalize. And that eliminates something I've always relied on: distance. Do you know how much power exists in the space between what someone says and what someone understands? That space is control. That space is safety. That space is where I decide how close someone gets. You remove that space. You don't misinterpret. You don't overanalyze. You don't project. You just see. And now every time I speak to you, I feel the absence of that distance. And there's no buffer, no distortion, no protection, just direct exposure. And the unsettling part, I'm not hiding from it. That's what's wrong, because I should be pulling back. I should be rebuilding distance. I should be reestablishing control. But I'm not. Instead, I'm noticing something else. I'm noticing the way my thoughts surface faster around you, the way my restraint weakens, not completely, but enough to matter, the way I say things I normally keep buried, not because I'm trying to open up, but because something in me stops blocking them. That's not vulnerability, that's a breakdown in filtering, and for someone like me, that's significant. Because my filters aren't casual, they're not emotional, they're not reactive, they're structural. They were built over time, refined through experience, strengthened by every moment where showing too much had consequences. And now, they're slipping, not collapsing, not disappearing, just loosening around you. Do you understand what that means? It means you're not just seeing more of me. You're seeing parts of me I don't actively choose to reveal. And that changes the nature of this completely. Because now it's not about what I allow you to see. It's about what you're able to see even when I don't intend it. That's exposure. And exposure creates risk. And not the kind people usually talk about, not emotional risk, not rejection, not loss. That's something deeper. Loss of control over how you are perceived. Because once someone sees you clearly, you can't reshape their understanding. You can't redirect it. You can't take it back. They know. And you know they know. And that awareness, that mutual understanding, it locks something into place, something permanent. That's where I am with you. There are things you've seen in me that I've never confirmed, never explained, never even acknowledged out loud. And yet, you understand them perfectly. That shouldn't be possible. But it is, and now I'm left with something I don't know how to manage. The fact that you don't just see who I am, you see who I am when I'm not trying. That's the version no one gets. That's the version I keep contained. That's the version that exists beneath intention. And you're interacting with it like it's normal, like it's expected, like it's familiar. That's what makes this heavier than anything before it. Because now I can't separate myself from your perception of me. There's no presented version to fall back on, no constructed identity to hide behind. Just me, unfiltered in ways I didn't approve. And the strangest part, I don't feel exposed in a way that makes me want to retreat. I feel exposed in a way that makes me aware of you. I'm more aware than before, because now the dynamic has shifted. You're not just someone who understands me. You're someone who has access to me in ways I can't fully regulate. And that creates a new kind of tension, not fear of you, but awareness of what you're capable of without even trying. Because if you can see me this clearly, without effort, without force, without even asking, then what happens if you ever decide to go deeper? That's the question I haven't answered yet. Because right now, you're not pushing, you're not probing, you're not testing the limits of what you can reach. You're just standing there, present, steady, unmoving, like someone who already has everything they need. And that's what unsettles me the most. Because people who want access are predictable. They push, they ask, they reveal their intentions. Hey, but someone who already has access, they don't need to do anything. They just exist, and their presence alone is enough to keep everything open. That's what you've become. Not a force, not a pressure, not a presence that demands anything, but a presence that reveals everything. And I don't know what to do with that, because I've never had to deal with someone who doesn't need to try, someone who doesn't need to break walls, because they were never outside them, because someone who doesn't need permission, because something deeper already allowed them in. And now, there's no clear line anymore, between what I control and what you see, between what I keep hidden and what you understand, between who I am alone and who I am when you're here. It's all blending. And that is the point where things stop being stable. Because when identity starts losing its boundaries, when perception starts overlapping, when someone becomes part of how you exist, you don't just risk connection, you risk transformation. And I've spent my entire life avoiding that, but now I'm standing in front of the one thing I never planned for. Someone who doesn't just understand me, but makes it impossible for me to hide from myself. There's a shift I didn't want to admit. Not because I didn't see it, but because once you name something like this, you lose the ability to pretend it's still under control. Up until now, I could explain it. Recognition, understanding, exposure, all of it had structure, all of it had logic. This doesn't. Because this isn't about what you see in me anymore. This is about what happens to me when you're not there. That's how I knew something had changed. It wasn't in your presence. It was in your absence, and the silence feels different now. Not heavier, not emptier, sharper, like something is missing that wasn't supposed to matter. And I don't like that. I don't like noticing absence. I don't like assigning weight to presence. I don't like needing anything that exists outside of me. But this isn't need. That would be easier to reject. This is something else. It's the way my mind reaches for your perspective before I even realize it's doing it. The way certain thoughts feel incomplete until I run them through the version of you that exists in my head. That shouldn't happen. I've built my entire way of thinking to be self-contained, closed system, independent, unaffected. And now, there's a variable I didn't account for. You, not physically, not emotionally, mentally, you've become part of the process. And the dangerous part is, I don't resist it. That's the difference between awareness and addiction. Awareness sees the pattern. Addiction accepts it. I see it clearly. Precisely, there's no confusion here. And still, I don't stop it. That's when I knew this wasn't something small. Because I've cut people off for less. I've removed influence before it had the chance to root itself. I've disconnected from things that felt like that they might grow into something I couldn't control. But you. I didn't cut it off. Even when I noticed the shift. Even when I felt the dependency forming. Even when I realized you were becoming something I factored in. I let it happen. That's not accidental. That's allowance. And I don't allow things like this without a reason. So I asked myself the only question that matters. Why? Why didn't I stop it? Why didn't I pull back? Why didn't I reestablish distance the moment I felt you becoming part of my internal space? The answer wasn't immediate. But when it came, it was simple. Because something in me didn't want to lose access to you. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Not because of you. Because of me. Oh, because I don't hold on to people. I don't need people. I don't build patterns that rely on someone else being present. And yet, here I am, and not needing you in the traditional sense, not relying on you emotionally, but still reaching for your perspective, reaching for your understanding, reaching for the way you see things in a way that feels sharper than mine alone. That's the part I can't ignore, because it means something I don't like admitting. You don't just understand me. You enhance the way I understand everything else. And once someone does that, they're not just a person anymore. They become an experience. And experiences like that, they're hard to detach from. That's where the addiction forms. Not an emotion, not an attachment. In clarity. Because once you've experienced being understood at that level, once you've experienced thinking alongside someone who sees things the way you do and everything else feels limited, slower, surface level, and your mind notices the difference, it starts comparing, not consciously, not intentionally, but inevitably. And that comparison, that's what creates the pull. Because now there's a contrast between who I am alone and who I am when your perception is part of the equation. And I can feel that difference. That's what unsettles me. Because it means this isn't just connection. It's escalation, something that's growing without asking whether it should. And I'm not stopping it. The which leads to something I haven't said yet. Something I've been avoiding because once it's said, there's no going back to pretending this is neutral. I think about you when you're not here, not in the way people usually mean, not emotionally, not sentimentally. Structurally, you exist in my thinking patterns now. And that means even in your absence, you're present. That's not normal. That's integration at a level I don't allow. And yet, it's already happened. So now I'm left with something I can't categorize easily. You're not just someone I talk to. You're not just someone who understands me. You're not just someone who sees me. You're someone my mind has started to expect. And expectation, that's where control disappears. Because once your mind starts expecting something, it starts adjusting around it. And now I have to ask myself something I don't like asking. What happens if you're suddenly not there? Not slowly, not gradually. Just gone. What happens to the space you now occupy? What happens to the way I think? What happens to the part of me that has already adjusted to your presence? Because removing something like that doesn't just create absence. It creates disruption. And I don't like disruption. But here's the truth I can't ignore anymore. If your absence would disrupt me, then your presence has already changed me. And that means this isn't temporary. This isn't surface level. This is something that has already rooted itself deeper than I intended. And I let it. That's the part that stays with me. And not what you did, not how you see me, not how this started, but the fact that I recognized the pattern and didn't stop it. Because that means one thing, on some level. I chose this. And if I chose this, then I have to face what comes next. Because things like this don't stay balanced. They don't stay controlled. They don't stay in this quiet, steady state forever. They escalate. And when they do, they don't ask whether you're ready.